What is your trouble?
High induction open. Cruise compartment, forward and after engine rooms flooded. Not sure about after torpedo room, but could not establish communication with that compartment. Hold the phone and I will put the captain on.
Request. U.S. submarine. Status of pressure in the boat. Over.
Hello, can you hear us? Help, anyone? We lost them.
The ocean depths are a dark, mysterious world. It's easy to look on with curiosity from afar, from the comfort of dry land. However, leaving the familiar comforts of the surface behind, we quickly become at the mercy of Mother Nature. Under the waves 6 miles off the coast of New England, a group of men are given this brutal reminder. It's May 23rd, 1939, and 33 men of the crew of the USS Squalus had not planned to spend their day fighting for their lives. Yet here they sit, 240 feet below the surface, in a highly pressurized metal tube. The 33 are all that remain of the original crew of 59. For 39 hours, 33 men hung on to a hope that they would see the surface again. By the 1930s, submarines were tried and tested, and although rescues were a slim chance in the case of an emergency, the Squalus was a new ship at the time. It was technologically advanced and up to that point had a solid track record. Having successfully completed 18 test dives since its launch in September 1937, Commander Lieutenant Oliver Nakin and the rest of the crew had no reason to think anything would go wrong.
Outside in the bell. Start to the checklist. Upper hatch closing, dog. Lower main ballast.
The crew departed down the Piscataqua River at 7:30 in the morning. They were headed out towards the Isle of Shoals on another routine test dive. Everyone was fully prepared, and although it was a choppy morning with high winds, spirits were high. Approaching the dive location at 8:30, Commander Nakin gave the order to dive. The klaxon sounded, the hatch closed, vents opened, and the Squalus went into a steep dive. Below the choppy waves of the ocean surface, even in the wildest of storms, you once again find tranquility and silence. Inside the submarine with the crew at their stations, the sub steadily descends to its target depth. However, at around 60 feet, the high winds and good moods from the morning were about to evolve into a state of panic and confusion. The sailors in the forward compartments felt a shudder. Suddenly, Yaman Charles Cooney heard screams over the phones from the engine room.
Mayday, mayday. Going down.
After a moment of hesitation and disbelief, Lieutenant Doyle ordered, "Blow main ballast," followed immediately by "Blow safety and bow buoyancy." The ballast seemed to stabilize things for a moment. The sub was now at a depth of around 80 feet and had managed to angle itself into an ascending position. All of a sudden, there was a terrific increase in pressure. Trouble was struck on the back with a volume of water coming in the ventilation line directly over him. It was a mad rush to close all bulkhead doors and ventilation shafts. As he was sealing the door for good, a final 8 men ran through, just making it to safety. With the doors sealed, those in the control and forward rooms were safe for now. But the remaining 26 men had been buried in a watery grave. The dark descent continued at a 45-degree angle. The submarine struck the bottom and finally settled at an 11-degree upright angle. The hectic commotion of the flooding gave way to an eerie stillness. Commander Nakin reassured his remaining crew that they would surely be rescued. Yet at a settled depth of 240 feet, the surface was much farther away than it seemed.
Alpha period. Any unit, this net.
The search operation is triggered. All available units head for the area where the submarine is believed down.
With the situation assessed and everyone getting a grasp of what just happened, Captain Nakin ordered Lieutenant Nichols to release the marker buoy. He then ordered a flare fired at that moment and every hour after until contact was made.
There it is, a red flare from the sunken submarine.
Tasked with heading up the rescue was Charles Swede Mommsen. Mommsen was a naval officer and inventor who grew up in a family of sailors and officers. In 1917, he himself graduated from the United States Naval Academy and served as a submariner during World War I. It was during his time at war that Mommsen became fascinated with the idea of creating a device that could rescue sailors trapped in sunken submarines. In 1929, he invented the Mommsen lung, a breathing device that allowed submariners to escape the depths. Although the men on board the Squalus had these Mommsen lungs, they knew they were too deep and the risk too high. This is where another invention came to the rescue. In addition to his lungs, Mommsen also created the diving bell. The diving bell works by lowering a bell-shaped chamber down to the sunken submarine. The chamber is then sealed, and the trapped submariners can climb inside and be brought to the surface. This had never been attempted. In fact, the Navy initially pushed aside his ideas of a diving bell until they had no other choice.
This rescue operation, it requires intense and exacting effort.
The crew was in total darkness except for portable emergency lights and handheld flashlights. The crew spread out to evenly distribute their weight, and the commander instructed them to lay down, stay still, and control their breathing. Soda lime was laid out in an attempt to absorb any CO2 in the room. The waiting game was on.
My bell is in the water. I am commencing my first bell run to make a seal on your deck. Going down.
And so the rescue was underway.
Yellow diver on the descending line. Yellow diver going down. Let me know when you reach the bottom. Yellow diver leaving the surface. Okay, yellow. Now set the 4-point morning detail. Phase 3. Rescue.
The pressure of seawater squeezes the chamber's rubber gasket around the hatch, making a firm, tight seal.
First contact with the crew was little more than hammering Morse code signals on the hull of the submarine. Initial communications confirmed 33 survivors aboard. The first rescue with the bell began at 11:30 a.m. and took 42 minutes to reach the Squalus. The rescue crew opened the sunken vessel. At first, there was no response from the crew. However, upon opening the lower escape hatch, the men could be heard. Provisions were readily passed out, and the men jokingly complained about a lack of utensils and napkins. The diving bell was small. While 33 men awaited rescue, only a handful of additional sailors could fit inside with the operators. This was going to take a while. Determined, the first 7 perseverantly boarded the bell and off they went, leaving behind their fellow 26 crewmen in the depths. The bell operators had disobeyed Mommsen, bringing up more than 7 men on the second trip, hoping to complete the rescue sooner. The operators feigned surprise when 9 men came out of their bell. Mommsen knew they were lying and told them, "You brought out too many men on this trip, but do it again." On the 4th and final ascent, the diving bell jammed at around 150 feet. The rescue stopped. The surface crew tried their best to haul the men up, but the tension on the cable was threatening to break it. Finally, they decided to lower the bell back to the bottom and send a diver to cut it loose and reattach it. Risky, but there was no other choice. It paid off. The crew was safe and the rescue was complete. After the successful rescue of the crew members, the Navy faced the daunting task of salvaging one of their newer submarines full of valuable technology. The Navy employed a team of divers and engineers to work on the salvaging operation. At a depth of over 240 feet, the pressure and currents were strong and the operation would be a challenge, to say the least. Their eventual success was a remarkable achievement, showcasing the bravery and ingenuity of the team, and paved the way for future developments in deep-sea diving and submarine rescue. After the USS Squalus was salvaged and repaired, the decision was made to recommission her as the USS Sailfish. Following her recommission, the Sailfish went on to have an illustrious career in the Navy, serving throughout World War II. The Sailfish was eventually decommissioned in 1945 after the end of World War II. The rescue of the crew of the USS Squalus was a triumph. The incident was a pivotal moment in the history of submarine rescue. It helped to establish new protocols and technologies that have saved countless lives since then. Charles Swede Mommsen played a critical role in the rescue of the crew of the Squalus. He humbly fought for what he believed in, and it paid off. The 4 enlisted divers were recognized for their heroism with the Medal of Honor.